Poke Problems Podcast, episode 274, Back to Basics.
The candy episode.
Wolf Doctor, are you licking candy over there as we're talking?
Tastes like candy.
I'm going to have the Cameo candy song stuck in my head.
I thought you were going to do I Want Candy.
Dun, 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 dun. Well, hello.
Greetings.
I am Ms. Silver,
And I am the Wolf Doctor.
and we'd like to welcome you to the Poke Problems Podcast.
Back to basics. Candy.
I want to say this is like Halloween edition because we're talking about candy.
Because candy's delicious.
Now, Wolf Doctor, what truly is candy in Pokemon Go?
So no one truly understands its essence. Somehow you get this candy. Is it made out of Pokemon? Flavored in a Fantasia that we're supposed to assume tastes like that Pokemon would taste? Is it meant to represent its essence? I wouldn't imagine that I really want a candy that tasted like a Pikachu, but I'd want a candy that was zesty and sweet and jazzy and fun like a Pikachu. Maybe it's like a lemon tropical flavor if it's an Alolan one.
And I wonder if any of these candies have special effects like Pop Rocks. Do they explode in your mouth?
Yeah, see, there's just something we don't know about about these candies.
Or like Gushers. Is the essence, the true essence of the Pokemon buried deep within, so when you bite into it, you can feel it exploding everywhere? Like, what are these Pokemon candy?
Okay, we don't know what they taste like, but we know what they do for us. Basically, there are candies associated with each evolution family of Pokemon. So there's Pikachu candy, and that candy is associated with Pichu, Pikachu, Raichu, and Alolan Raichu. So forms, different formies, regional forms, have the same candy type. And then all the evolutions, so Eevee candy for Eevee and Flareon and Vaporeon and Jolteon. So there's only kind of a limited number of types of candy compared to the number of Pokemon.
What I find interesting is that for a lot of the candy, it's named after the base form of the Pokemon, but if there's a baby form, there's no Pichu candy. It just starts at Pikachu.
That's correct. That's correct. So it's kind of named after the basic form of the Pokemon.
The most common form that you see.
And there's regular candy, which is named after and related to this Pokemon. And then there's rare candy, which is rainbow colored and sort of like a wild card candy. We'll talk about it in greater depth later.
Well, that's important to note because the candy is usually the base color of the first Pokemon. So it might be confusing as you level up and then they're not the same color as the current evolution.
That's right. That's right. Especially like the Eevee candy. The candies can be, I think, two colors. So we see for the regular Pokemon candy. The Eevee candy is kind of like the two shades of Eevee brown. The kind of tail tuft and rough color, and then the body color of the Eevee. So when you've got a Jolteon, you still need these brown candies, even though your Pokemon is bright yellow.
And there's even different shapes. Like the regular candy for a specific Pokemon is round. Does that mean it tastes different when you eat it? Is it like an everlasting gobstopper?
Well, that's right. Miss Silver brings up the shape because there's kind of two variations on candy. Is it Pokemon themed, like to a specific Pokemon and that Pokemon's color and only useful for that Pokemon? Or is it rare, meaning it's a rainbow colored wild card candy to be used on any Pokemon? And then regular candy versus Candy XL, which is a triangular.
Does that mean it's cake?
I know, it could be.
What is it?
It has the same color scheme as a base or a rare candy, but it's a triangular, remember when Vicks had little lozenges that were that shape?
They did?
Yeah.
I don't remember those. Whoa. I see, and I always thought that these were pieces of cake that had somehow been cut up and they have different layers. So then you have like, I don't know, maybe the gelatin layer here or a cream layer or a floof layer here.
Whoa.
I've thought about candy far too much and what it could taste like.
So that's our kind of 4 different kinds of candy. Candy from a specific evolution family that is regular or excel, and candy that is rare that is regular or excel.
Wow.
And one of the things I should mention about this is that you can only get XLs once you've hit level 31.
Is that true, Wolf Doctor?
Yeah, they didn't introduce that until we were already level 31, so that's why we don't know.
Yeah. Because I know it wasn't out originally, so I didn't even realize that.
That's right. So what is candy? What does it do for you? So many possible things, Miss Silver. The thing I think of the most is powering up Pokemon.
Yes. Do you think that the Pokemon are eating the candy to power up?
I hope they're not made out of that Pokemon then.
It's like that one World of Warcraft comic where the hunter has a pet bear and she's feeding it bear that she caught.
Yeah, that's what I wonder.
Or maybe they're just touching it and absorbing the candy's power. Who knows?
Or maybe you, as the trainer, eat the candy so that you can be powered up yourself to train that Pokemon.
Oh.
So, like, you eat it and it makes you, like, get very Pikachu-esque, and you learn more how to teach it because you have that essence of Pikachu in you.
You get more in the zone and connected to your Pokemon.
Yeah, who knows? They disappear, though. The amount of candy it takes to level up a Pokemon is dependent on its level. And it starts at only 1 candy to go from like level 1 to level 1.5. But it takes 15 to go from level 39 to 39.5.
But then once you get it almost maxed out, you've got to feed those candy X cells to level it up more.
That's right. From level 40 to level 50, it requires Candy XL. Regular candy is no good anymore. And that starts with 10 candies for your first level above 40, up to 20 candies for the half level above 50. I'm saying half level because levels are done in whole numbers for both you and the Pokemon, but the Pokemon actually get like a half level. So each power-up session is half level. Now, this candy is not enough. You do also have to have Stardust. We'll talk about that some other time, how you get it, what it is, that kind of stuff. But basically, candy is a resource for powering up. And purified Pokemon take 10% less candy to power up, while shadow ones take 20% more.
I didn't realize that shadow Pokemon took more candy to power up.
Yeah, I didn't realize that until recently.
Ooh, fascinating. If only we could trade them.
Okay, so that's one of the things you can do with candy. It also takes candy, and it's only ever regular candy, not Candy XL, to evolve your Pokemon.
Oh, very, very true. And some Pokemon only need 25 candy to evolve.
Some only need 12, Miss Silver.
Oh, that's true. A lot of the birds.
And then, at the other end of the spectrum, some of them, like Noibat, take like 400 candy to evolve.
I remember all the memes for people trying to evolve their Magikarp into Gyarados because that was the big one originally. That's like, you just got to walk that Magikarp.
That's right. Now, it's not always just candy to evolve. Sometimes there's other requirements like that, you have to have friendship level or something like that, or you have to have walked a certain number of miles, but it still always requires the candy. Purified Pokemon take less candy to evolve.
I didn't realize that either. I guess I've purified so few Pokemon that I actually kept. I totally didn't transfer most of my purified Pokemon.
Miss Silver, something I know you like candy for is for unlocking a second charged attack.
This is one of the most important things. It's great if you're doing a lot of PvP battles or even raid battles to have different options for moves, and that's definitely where a lot of my candy goes. And I've walked several Groudons where you can get enough candy to give them extra moves.
Now, we talked about purifying shadow Pokemon. That also takes candy. Not a lot, but it takes candy.
And it can take a lot of Stardust, too.
That's right. many form changes. So if you want to change form for like shaman or furfrou, to get different furfrou cuts, say, that takes candy.
Or hoopa. If you want to see that hyperspace hole action, you've got to use that candy.
Zygarde takes candy as well as cells. So formy change requires candy. Another one I thought of, because I was just like looking on the internet and just thinking of a million things. Fusing Necrozma with Solgaleo or Lunala to get their special formies.
If only I could do this.
Yeah, you have to have other things. You have to have fusion energy too, but you need candy as well.
What is fusion energy, Wolf Doctor? Someday I'll have enough.
Our lives will be simpler then when we have all that fusion energy.
Well, similarly, Palkia and Dialga have their special moves. Special Rend and Roar of Time.
Yeah, those take candy to use. And those moves, when you use them in battle as a charged attack, don't require anything special. But like when you use them, they have an adventure effect. Spatial Rend makes your circle larger for what Pokemon and stops come within your reach. And Roar of Time extends the use life of items.
That can be good for community days and other big events.
Yeah, but it takes candy. Candy.
Well, Wolf Doctor, how are we going to get these huge piles of candy to do all these cool things?
My goodness. We're going to start with just candy, like Pokemon-specific candy, and we'll talk about how you get rare candies after. Because there's just so much to know about candy.
Well, Wolf Doctor, every time you catch a Pokemon, you get some candy from it.
That's right. The amount of candy is based on where in the evolution cycle that Pokemon is. So the first stage of a Pokemon is 3 candies. The second stage evolution is 5. And the third stage is 10 candies.
One thing I like to stock up on is pineapple berries, because if you feed that to your Pokemon, they'll get double the candy when you catch them. And if you're catching those final evolution forms, that's when it's really important to give them that pineapple berry, because you'll just get so much more candy.
So much candy. It's super important too with legendary raids like we were talking about before. I actually use a lot of silver pineapple berries. Miss Silver uses pineapples and silver pineapples to increase your candy income. But there's all other ways to increase that amount of candy you get from catching Pokemon. And sometimes there's special events that increase the amount of candy, things like that. But there are things that you can do.
Like Mega Evolve, a Pokemon that shares the type with the Pokemon you want more candy of.
Yeah, and Mega Evolving a Pokemon actually ends up hitting a few different types typically. Like they tend to, it has multiple types that it enhances the candy catch of, not just the base type of the Mega. So it's worth looking to see what type you have. But that increases the amount of candy. Sometimes there's things like Spotlight Hour.
Ooh. So coming up in this next month, on October 29th, that's one of the very important dates, because you'll get double candy for that Spotlight Pokemon. Well, any Pokemon you catch during that hour.
Right. There's also a chance when you catch a Pokemon of getting a Candy XL for that Pokemon. And the chance increases based on the level of the Pokemon you're catching.
Ooh, so if it is a higher CP, you might have a better chance of getting more of that Candy XL?
Yes, and if it's further along in the evolution cycle, I think there's also a higher chance. One last tip on that, though, is that when you use a pineapple berry to increase the amount of candy you get, it does not change the amount of XL candy you will get. So if you happen to get one, you're only getting the one from that catch. But Miss Silver, we were talking about the other ways to get candy. What about Professor Willow?
Oh, that's right. You can give him Pokemon, transfer them, that you no longer want in your inventory, and he'll give you candy for them. That's why these implications. What does that mean? What is Professor Willow doing with these Pokemon that he suddenly gives you candy for them?
I mean, he's like, I released them into the wild and they dropped this candy with their essence?
Do you think he has a giant machine that he puts these Pokemon in for, quote, analysis, and then they get crushed into candy?
Is this like a Willy Wonka thing of some kind?
I never thought about that. It's Professor Willow.
He's going to be played by Timothy Chalamet in the movie. That's all I'm saying.
When he gets of age, that's going to be his role.
He just has to get some frosted tips, and he can be. I could see it now that we're saying it. I could believe
Definitely.
Timothy Chalamet as Professor Willow. Whoa! But there are other things you can do there to maximize the amount of candy you get from that transfer.
For spotlight hours, usually once a month, there's a time where you get double transfer candy. October 1st is the next one that's coming up.
And if a Pokemon is higher level, you get a higher chance of getting a Candy XL when you give it to Professor Willow.
See, this just raises more and more questions. Is he getting more essence out of it? I don't know if you've seen the Dark Crystal, but all I can imagine is the Skeksis using the crystals to suck the essence out of the Gelflings. Maybe that's what he does. He's got a chair that he puts the Pokemon in.
There are a lot of crystals in Pokemon Go. And Pokemon in general. Think about it. Those like raid crystals, like is
Terra crystals?
Yeah. Whoa. And then there's also candy you get from your buddy. Now, we talked about this a little bit on our buddy episode. I think we may have covered it fully, but let's just recap here. You get candy from walking your buddy, even if your buddy is not in adventure mode. You don't have to feed them berries or whatever, or poffins, to get them on the map and have them be on there walking around with you for you to earn like the daily walking type candies.
But if you get them super excited, don't you get more candy faster?
That's right. It halves the distance. So if your Pokemon had a poffin, you're getting double the amount of candy for your walking. The distances for walking the Pokemon to get one candy are 1, 3, 5, or 20 kilometers. Most mythicals and legendaries require 20 kilometers of walking to get the one candy.
That makes me wonder how long I've walked all of those Rayquaza and Groudon to get all of their candy for all these extra moves.
And then on top of that, there's a chance of an additional Candy XL. So you get the candy, and then maybe you also get a Candy XL. That is apparently kind of a chance thing, but the chance increases based on the level of the Pokemon. And some people believe it increases based on your friendship level with that Pokemon.
Ooh.
So we talked about it during the buddy episode, but essentially walking your buddy is a way to get candy.
It's a good way to evolve a Pokemon that it's hard to get candy from, like maybe a Salandit.
Yeah, walking is a time-honored way to gain candy when you can't catch them.
Does this mean that when you're walking them, you're somehow stealing their essence to get... Where's this candy coming from?
Maybe they're finding them in the wild, like they find the souvenirs and stuff.
So many questions.
What about hatching, Miss Silver?
Ah, yes. Anytime you hatch an egg, you'll get a lot of candy for whatever Pokemon.
Apparently the amount depends on what kind of egg it is. A 2, a 5, a 7, a 10, or a 12. So the ones that are more walking are more candy, but it's not a fixed number. It varies. I'm not sure. I was reading about this online. I'm not sure if it varies per individual hatch or just per species of Pokemon.
See, this just makes me wonder where this specific candy comes from. Is it with the Pokemon and its egg? And because it takes longer to incubate the egg, you get more candy?
I do not understand.
This is just like, where do Pokemon eggs actually really come from? They never want to tell you at the daycare. It's all very mysterious.
It's very mysterious. Yet another way to get candy is by trading Pokemon with another person, sending it to them to take care of.
Ah. And if we're from a farther away distance, do you get more candy?
You do. From 100 kilometers or more apart, like where the Pokemon were caught, that's 3 candy. Like if we caught Pokemon in the same place, it's 1 candy. And there's a chance of a Candy XL. But if you're from far away, it's a guaranteed Candy XL.
Whoa.
That's something I didn't realize and something we need to take more advantage of.
Definitely. We should be swapping a whole bunch of legendaries.
From far away.
Mm-hmm.
This next method of getting candy is your favorite, Miss Silver.
Oh. If you see Pokemon in gyms that are on your team, you can feed them berries and sometimes you might get a candy for that Pokemon.
Yeah, it's just kind of a nice little bonus. You're like, oh, I'm feeding this Pokemon, increasing my gym level. This is fun. And then, oh, I got a candy. Some people specifically put their Pokemon in gyms to try to get a chance at candy.
Are you talking about me?
It's not just you. We've had other folks say that's one of their favorite ways to get candy. It encourages them to keep those gyms powered up.
Like when I had the Gothita invasion and they were everywhere so that I could try and get more candy off of them.
I remember that. And the last way I thought of that sometimes you get Pokemon-specific candy. Sometimes. Sometimes it's in researches. It's not super commonly in field research, but sometimes in special or timed research, you get tasks that give you candy that are Pokemon-specific candies like this. Regular candies.
Ah.
Yeah, it's usually in especially ones like in a special research where you get a legendary or a mythical Pokemon, they often give you tasks that give you candy for that Pokemon.
That way you could level it up or teach it another move.
Exactly. Now we talked about how you can get Candy XL, regular Candy XL, from some of these activities where you can get regular candy. But one surefire way to get Candy XL is to trade 100 regular candies for one Candy XL.
Is that really the exchange rate, Wolf Doctor?
It is
100
horrible.
100 candy.
100.
100. You're not saying 10.
100. And that's true across species.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Now I see why it's very important to follow all of these rules, like catching Pokemon during spotlight hours, then trading them with your friends, and then transferring them during the correct spotlight hours while mega evolving Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's not that hard to get those Candy XLs, but you need a lot of them to get all the way up to the top.
Yeah.
It's like 296 for each Pokemon to get it from level 40 to level 50. Yeah, that's how many rare candies you need. It's a lot. So,
I'm dying. That's so many.
Like 300 Candy XLs, that would be 30,000 regular candies.
Wolf Doctor, I have a question. I'm assuming the Pokemon you will have the most candy for will be Pikachu just because of events. I don't know if that's true.
It might also be the Eevee things.
Oh, I was going to see which Pokemon you might have the most candy for. Oh, no, you're right. I have more Eevee candy than Pikachu.
I have 6,000 Eevee candy. How about you?
I have 8,356 Eevee candy.
I have 6,000 of both. I have virtually the same number of Pikachu and Eevee candies.
And I have way more of Eevee.
You are an Eevee lover, a known Eevee lover.
That's true.
All right, now it's time for the rare candy. Describe it, Miss Silver, in all its deliciousness.
Well, the rare candy, I must view it and think about how it will melt or sizzle or pop in your mouth. It is a rainbow of colors. It almost looks like a delicious piece of cake or maybe Jell-O that's green on the bottom, going to shades of yellow and into that light pale pink and into the bright Shellos pink.
That's a good description. It's sparkly, too. It's a little translucent.
Yeah.
I mean, it has an inner glow.
How do you even create such a divine wonder?
What do you think it tastes like?
I always imagine, you know those little candy sticks that come in different flavors like blueberry or cinnamon?
Yeah.
And they look like they're swirled? I imagine this tastes like the Tutti Frutti flavor. Is that strange?
I imagined tropical fruits.
Ah.
Like a shave ice in those colors, tropical fruits.
Do you think if you licked this piece of rare candy, it would be like a rainbow of flavors? Like you could taste the gradient as it changed?
So I would like to think that were true. You know, in those rainbow colored candies, when you lick them like that, and they are actually supposed to be different flavors, they never seem to be different flavors, do they? But maybe these, because they're fictional, are actually different flavors in different parts.
I want to believe. Don't break my illusion, Wolf Doctor.
I want it to be true. So what is the deal with rare candy? It's like a wild card. You can swap, and there's a little menu item to do it. If you pick up Pokemon, you can choose from its little menu to swap rare candy for regular candy and candy for Candy XL. You can use it as an item on a Pokemon, and it turns into their candy. But essentially, one rare candy used on a Pokemon creates one of its candies. And one Candy XL rare used in a Pokemon creates its Candy XL.
They are the best kind of candy.
It's delicious looking and so useful.
All right, Wolf Doctor, how do we get all this rare candy and Rare Candy XL?
You can get it from all types of research. Sometimes it's a timed research reward. Sometimes if you're lucky, you'll find a field research that has rare candy. It's often for events they'll do rare candy field research.
Though I've seen a lot of sponsored gifts that often have rare candy as a reward. So I always try and check the sponsored gifts just in case.
Yeah, gifts like sponsored gifts. Sometimes they have special events where regular gifts from your friends include rare candy sometimes, which is awesome.
We need these more often, Niantic, in case you're listening.
Yeah. So research, gifts, those weekly field research breakthroughs sometimes come with rare candy, as well as the encounter. It is a possible reward for winning a raid or a Dynamax battle. Like they have different bundles of rewards you get, and they're randomly selected, but rare candies are on that list.
Just like if you do the Go Battle League, that's a great way to get lots of rare candy as well.
I think you have to win 4 battles, 4 out of 5 to get that rare candy, though.
I mean, that's possible.
It's doable.
That's a thing.
It's doable, especially when you're early on, but later, oh. So I did not know this, but you get a randomly selected reward from for like a reward bundle pull from battling one-on-one. Like if I challenged you right now and showed you my QR code for the battle or sent the battle from your friend, apparently 3 times a day, up to 3 times a day, you can do that battle and get a random reward. And one of them, as well as the regular like XP for winning the battle, you could get a rare candy.
And if you don't have someone else to battle, you can always battle one of the team leaders.
Yeah, and that has a chance of giving you a candy.
So you got more chances every day to get some of this.
I didn't notice, but if you get more than 25 kilometers, so the 25 kilometer or 50 kilometer in a week reward from Adventure Sync, that can also include rare candy. Again, random chance.
Got to get lucky.
And you can also get them when you level up. Rare Candy XL are in some of the upper levels as a reward.
So this is another reason that I need to level up harder.
Yeah.
Catch up to the Wolf Doctor.
You can get regular rare candy, but also Rare Candy XL at some of the higher levels. It's a way to get some delicious candy. And sometimes rare candy is part of events, like we were saying. You never know when they'll throw that bonus in.
Wolf Doctor, I feel like I've learned much more about candy than I could have ever imagined. But I still have questions about its taste, texture, where it comes from, where it goes.
Is it truly delicious?
I hope so.
Well, on this episode of the Poke Problems podcast, Back to Basics Candy Edition, we talked about what candy is, the 4 types of candy, regular candy XL that are Pokemon specific, rare candy, and Rare Candy XL that are wildcard candy. We've talked about how to get candy, how to get Candy XL, how to get Rare Candy and Rare Candy XL, and how to use candy to enjoy that delicious candy.
Well, Wolf Doctor, where can a listener go if they want to listen to this episode again or just maybe get general links to Pokemon Go news? There must be a centralized place.
Oh, yeah, there's a spot on our blog.
Wolf Doctor, what is that blog?
It's pokeproblemspodcast.blogspot.com.
And that's the best place to go for all of the Back to Basics episodes, along with the regular episodes of the Poke Problems podcast. But, Wolf Doctor, isn't there also a magical X or Twitter that will also have links to this information?
I think so.
The show does have an X. What could it be? I'm not very good at names.
Is it at I Like Candy?
Ooh, that's close. I think it might be Pokemon Cast.
Wait, what about your X? Do you have an X?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure if I use that anymore.
Isn't yours? I thought I saw one that had a picture, a rainbow shiny picture of rare silver.
That would be pretty good, but I think it's just Ms. Silver, MZSYLVER.
Oh, cool.
I think I might have to try and find that picture of the candy I saw at a Mitsuwa that looked exactly like Pokemon candy in Pokemon Go that I didn't buy, but
Why
I'm
didn't
regretting
you
it to
buy
this
it,
day.
Miss Silver? What it would we would finally learn what those things tasted like.
Well, Wolf Doctor, you have an ex, don't you?
Is it the candy doctor?
Oh, you are the candy doctor. You're hanging out with Willy Wonka, aren't you?
I make candy sometimes. Don't you remember that time our friend asked, like I gave them some of those taffies I made, and he was like, wait, you can like make candy?
Maybe Pokemon candy and Pokemon Go are something that's just created at home and randomly dispersed through the world like cats that are randomly dispersed.
This is making me think of Timothée Chalamet playing Professor Willow in the future.
It's gotta happen. Well, listeners, I think that's all we have time for today. I want to thank you for joining us on the Poker Problems Back to Basics episode.
Thank you for listening.
This is Ms. Silver.
And I am the Wolf Doctor.
And we'd like to remind you to
Game on! Thank you, Timothée Chalamet. He wants candy.